Not yet. Not yet. And here we are. I believe we're here.
Yeah, we are. I was just psyching you out.
You're psyching me out.
I
You
was like,
were. You're just freaking me out. You know how to
you
do
do.
it.
I do. We live in a Zoom age now. We live like at this thing where we're talking to each other on our phones or our computers. And what I love to do, specifically with people I know, is
Mhm.
pretend that I'm frozen, just to see what happens.
I would freeze
Because
too.
when
I
you
was
do
frozen
what
too.
we do, if you're
Yeah.
frozen and you don't have audio, you're like shit your pants. You get this flop sweat down the middle of your back, and you start panicking. You're I don't know what to. I like to send that charge into people. Anyway, hi, welcome to the FiveStack. My name is Dean, deanblundell.substack.com. That is my friend, co-host, and dear friend, Mr. Zev Shalev, world's greatest investigative reporter. He is at narrative.org, and we're back again for the 3 o'clock five stack. Five of the biggest major breaking news stories. And OMFG, as the kids say, we have some serious shit to talk about
Yeah,
today, Zev.
there's so much breaking news going on right now that you can't actually fit it in just to a top five. We had to like find ways to compress some of these stories together. But we have to start with one of the biggest stories out there, and it's one that you've been focusing on for a very long time now. The wildest media scandal of the year, and it just got even darker. Ryan Lizza dropped part 5 of his tell-all series this morning, revealing that Tucker Carlson told Olivia Nuzzi she should fear for her life during her affair with RFK Jr. and offered to send her a shotgun for protection. It's a crazy story. Lizza claims Nuzzi was elated when the scandal went public because it meant she was back in touch with Kennedy and that she recruited her CIA agent and a former CNN spokesperson to run a coordinated smear campaign against him. Um, this is just the sickest, wildest, most awful thing that has ever happened to America, but it's just perfect in some ways.
You know, there are stories that some people are paying attention to, and they look at the wrong things. This would be one of them, just because of the salacious nature of the river and the canyon that you don't want to talk about. I do. I really do. Just because this story brought the term felching to the front pages of every major
Oh,
newspaper.
oh,
No, hang in there, hang in there. I won't get into it. And that stuff's like gross and fun and cool and all that other shit.
yeah,
Captures your imagination.
it sure does.
When I started reading Ryan Lizza, everybody needs to follow him. He's at Substack. Telos is Telos. Is the name of his new media company, and he is doing a series right now. I don't know how many different parts there are. I find out when you do about Olivia Nuzzi's affair, digital affair. Some would now say physical affair with RFK Jr., who is a sex fiend, sex maniac, sexaholic, drug addict, complete fucking crackerjack, heroin. Like just he's an awful fucking human being. And what we're getting out of the story progressively as these series continue to move forward is this absolutely fucking dark look into mainstream media's collection of information to kill information or to keep powerful people in power, to keep elites at the top of the fucking heap, or for political purposes. I have never in my life, and I've read every single story, and I'm going to try and see if we can get Ryan on the show. I maybe want to do an interview with him one-on-one. Not sure if he's into that until the series is over. But Ryan has been carefully curating his experience with Olivia Nuzzi. And Olivia Nuzzi, who is, by all accounts, this paranoid adulteress who's got a daddy issue that has this delusional capacity to think that she's writing her own fairy tale and she's the most important person in every story that she's involved in. But where things got really fucking weird with I call them the Lizard Papers, we're part 5 now, is how he lays out that the confession that he was giving about what happened between him and Olivia isn't anything to do with the relationship. It's a warning to people about how desperate that intersection of media, politics,
I
and
mean,
power sits in this cauldron of illegality and criminality. And you cannot trust the American mainstream media, ecosystem, and I go back to this, and I want to turn it over to you. I go back to one Donald Trump, and it was an affront when he said it, but it's fucking true. Mainstream media is the enemy of the people, and it is absolutely laid out brick by brick in part 5 of Ryan Liz's story.
I mean, it's a very generous thing that you're saying that Ryan is just doing this for, to expose all of this. He's getting a lot of clicks out of it. So we should say that. That's good for him. Good for
It's
him.
just smart. I do the same thing. Wouldn't you?
This is a business of clicks. This is what we do in this business. But I have to say, couldn't agree more with what your assessment of what the Citadel looks like. I call it the Citadel because that's what it looks like to me. Having been in there, having been in this sort of elite circle of people where you're surrounded by only people like yourselves. And the key is, if the secrets stay inside, you can stay. If any of the secrets leak, you're in trouble. And this is the nature of New York. This is the nature of DC. It's a self-protecting, self-defeating, self-deceiving, you name it, kind of infrastructure. And it's so interesting because it ties in with what we've been discovering around Epstein and that algorithm, which we'll get to later on. But this notion that, everything that's being presented to you is presented to you from a point of power, and they're constructing narratives around you. The reality of what's going on has very little to do with what you're reading or seeing on TV.
Yeah. Oh, and you nailed it in his exposés. And listen, you bring up a good point. Ryan Lizza is monetizing and capitalizing on a story that he himself sat on.
Mhm.
Now, can you call him the bastion of ethical journalism, knowing that he had this information about RFK's, surreptitious operative Olivia Newsy sex play thing, recording the president of the United States, trying to just get to the election? It's very Michael Wolff-esque, if you will. So yes, I mean, is he a hero? Not now. Is he reclaiming his life? Yeah, fuck, and I dig that. I like Dirty Pool, so just bear with me for a second. But what he's doing isn't just telling the story of Dirty Pool. He's telling the story of a breakup and the story of American journalism, as perverted as it is. You can call it a coming to God conversation. You can call it, a moment of ethical clarity. I call it survival, and he's capitalizing on it. In this piece, he revealed, without naming it explicitly, a culture of reporters sitting on stories, editors killing bombshells to protect brands and powerful people, political operatives weaponizing journalists, sources dangling access like a leash, public narrative shaped months or years in advance. Scandals are managed, monetized, not revealed, and the truth is completely rationed. It's not reported. He basically said the quiet part out loud. Washington isn't broken. It's functioning exactly as designed, as is the media ecosystem that Washington fucking owns. So remember that when you read everything that Ryan puts out from here on in when it comes to his relationship, why that relationship went sideways, and what he found out about that relationship and the unethical nature of that relationship. I believe it is unethical that Mr. Lizza, and I think listen, like, say what you want, I think he should have come forward with this first, but much like Maggie Haberman, much like everybody else involved in these stories, he's still a creature of that environment, and that's why we're getting this story now. And he's number one on World Politics and Substack. He is driving a ton of paid subs because everybody wants to read this. But in the end, he's revealing a story which we kind of always knew, that Donald Trump rose to power on the back of one of those slogans, is that mainstream media is the enemy of the people. And you and I both know that. We've known that for years.
We both know that for years. And, the thing is I'm enjoying the most out of this whole thing is that Nuzi, how do you say it? Her memoir, American Canto, did really poorly. So there's some sort of come up instead of
what do you mean really poorly? Like it didn't make any bestseller lists?
It didn't,
sold like
sort of
12
flops, basically. I mean, that's,
Well, that's the other thing. I don't know if you've read any of Olivia Newsy's writing. She is not a very good writer. I don't think she's there because she's an excellent writer or a great journalist, if you will.
Now, she's had affairs with like a lot of people, with Kennedy. You mentioned Mark Sanford, Olbermann. I mean, it's just like she's been around a lot. That seems to be her.
She's a climber. Yeah, she's a climber. And listen, old guys are pigs and perverts, right? Like, it's just a fact. You get, 22, 21, or at the time. And the story that's come out about Olivia Newsy, which is interesting, is her time with progressive demolition artist Keith Olbermann when he was at ESPN. He was 51. How old was she? 17. That's weird. That's gross. That's pedophilia. That just is. I mean, you get Keith, Olivia Nuzzi is no stranger to coddling up to power, coddling up to influence, and she's done it her entire relationship life. And the weird thing is, and I'd be interested to get some kind of like psychoanalysis of her, because she's perpetually attracted to rich, old, weird-looking dudes who have power and influence. So I'd be interested to know what her relationship with her dad is like. But yeah, I mean, she has quite the history. Quite the history. There's a note that I don't think Liz would put it out. He might have as part of his yeah, I've got evidence and I'll share that with you. I can't remember, but it was a note that Olivia Nuzzi allegedly wrote to Rick Sanford, who was then a governor, there's an alleged affair there too. It's like, sorry, but I couldn't help not touching you today. Like, and I'm like, she's fucking like she's like a teenager. She's got the delusion of a love-struck teenager, but like all the fucking time.
It's so,
and apparently one of the things that Liz would put in there too, which I thought was unfair, but I was like, oh, that makes sense, is that she has a crazy Adderall addiction.
I mean, everyone is medicated. I will say that much.
Yeah. No,
the 17-year-old thing is so interesting to me, because when I keep looking through this Epstein stuff, there are so many women who are motivated to be there for power, and that they knew what they were doing. Even at 17, knew what they were doing. Maybe illegal, but knew what they were doing in trying to work that system. And in New York, in this great citadel, or in DC, where all these power structures are, there's a lot of people doing the same thing. I mean, on both sides. People seeking to get laid, people seeking to gain power out of getting laid. There are foreign agents, they're paid for escorts, you name it. It's part of the way the business works. What's so fascinating to me is that this stuff is now leaking out, is that it's no longer being held back by the powers that be. I mean, Lizzo has a platform. He can tell the story to everybody on Substack. No one can stop him. And this is what must be freaking people like Donald Trump out, as we're waiting for the Epstein papers to come out, or the Epstein files to come out, because none of them can keep this back anymore. They used to have control over everything. Now they don't have that control, and it's a real challenge to who they are.
It's the importance of him, trying to own the oligarchy, right? Everybody that owns social media. I wonder how long this is going to last on Substack, to be honest with you, because Mark Andreessen is a major founder of Substack, a major investor in Substack. He's a big Trump guy, huge technocrat, blocked me months ago. I have no idea why. I'm like, I'm trying to read something that Mark Andreessen, like one of the godfathers of the internet. I'm like, oh, I want to read this. It was like, Mark Andreessen has blocked you. I'm like, well, clearly I've said something to upset.
At Substack, they've done a good job of maintaining the independent media piece of it, and I think that they're willing to defend it. I think he only owns about 20% of the entire Substack. So
that's good. I mean, listen, I love Substack. This is my home. This is what I love to do. And to your point, this is a direct main line into people's brains and hearts and psyches that didn't exist before the internet didn't exist, which is the importance of owning media. Now, Donald Trump has tried as he might, the Warner Brothers deal went sideways, trying to get that back because Jared Kushner was found to be the guy behind the money. He wants to own CNN. He basically said that yesterday.
CNN must be sold.
Gotta be
CNN must be sold. Really, the president of the United States.
And dude, he literally was like, they keep saying terrible things about me. Yeah. It's insane. But now we live in a world where not only do we know that it's corrupt, not only do we know that the media really in the United States, in an enterprise capacity, and the same thing in Canada, it's very, very similar, is mainstream media exists for two reasons. And none of those reasons are to inform you about anything. They exist to captain certain narratives on behalf of their executive relationships. And they also exist to kill certain narratives, to hoover up information, catch and kill. You may be familiar with that term.
I am.
Catch and kill. That's why media exists. And that's the ugly part, the dirty part, the shitty part that they would never admit to. It's like, yeah, fuck, you got us. Like David Pecker admitted to it when he was in front of a grand jury. He's like, yeah, we were the arm of like Donald Trump's media empire. We would catch and kill all the stories of all the women that he sexually abused. Yeah, that was us. But I still like Donald Trump. And that's just kind of our business model. We have a bunch of safes with a bunch of information in it. We pay people for their live stories, then we make them sign NDAs. Literally, that is what the media, this is the second most important purpose of the media in the United States of America. And that's what Ryan Liz is trying to tell us, because that's what he lived through. But again, I go back to this, so the same well. Is Ryan Liz a hero? Not really. Is he getting a lot off his chest? And did he almost get railroaded by Olivia Nuzzi and RFK Jr. and a cabal of people that painted him as a stalker? Yeah, and I'm enjoying him getting that part of his life back. But he lays it out perfectly. And I think that we've really touched on the essence of the fact that you can never trust anything that comes out of mainstream media in the United States of America, or even more importantly, you can never trust what they're not reporting, because they're not reporting it for a reason. They've already caught it, they've killed it, and they're not speaking truth to power. They're catering to it.
Well said. Number 4 on the countdown, Kristi Noem's congressional testimony turned into pure theater this morning when protesters stormed the House Homeland Security hearing, shouting, "End deportations and the power of Christ compels you." One protester, dressed as a priest with a crucifix, had to be physically removed by security as Noem tried to defend Trump's mass deportation campaign that now cost $165 billion and counting. She was feisty. She was all sorts of interesting today. Should we take a look at one of these clips?
Yes. Is it the one that I sent you?
Yeah.
Terry, how many United States military
You want to set it up first?
veterans
Yeah. Can you pause it?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, pause it, and then we'll restart it.
Okay, no problem.
After this inauspicious start where protesters came.
Oh, there goes Dean. You just lost yourself, or it lost you. You got to rejoin Dean. I'm not sure what happened. Because of that, let me tell you more about what happened today. A federal judge investigating right now whether Noem should face criminal contempt charges for violating court orders on the El Salvador deportation flights. I also saw a report earlier on today saying that one of the earlier people involved in that one of those deportation cases has been told that they have to be released, or the courts have announced that they have to be released. Waiting for Dean to rejoin us here. Meanwhile, why don't we look at one of those clips? That way we can talk to him a little bit afterwards about what he wants to do in terms of a setup. Let's take a look at what happened today. Here he is. I can't function without the man. It's so hard for me. Where are you, sir? Where are you, Dean? No, Dean. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to play the clip from earlier on today. This is what happened when, here he is. Okay, I danced, but I danced so badly.
It's okay. It's
I
all
missed
good.
you, and I danced badly.
How much of me did you get? Did you get me explaining the context behind it?
None of that. You just said, let me
None of
explain
that,
it, and
okay.
then we went away, and then I was looking for you.
Okay, so the Oversight Committee has Kristi Noem in its sights, and they're asking her a simple question: have you deported or detained any U.S. citizens, or U.S. veterans?
Yeah.
She walked into a trap. Watch this.
Terry, how many United States military veterans have you deported?
Sir, we have not deported U.S. citizens or military veterans.
I don't believe you served in the military. I haven't either, but I think you and I can agree that as Americans, we owe everything to those who have served our country in uniform, particularly those who have served in combat. Do you agree with that?
Sir, I believe that people that are in this United States that are citizens have legal status here.
Madam Secretary, we are joined on Zoom by a gentleman named Se-Jun Park. He is a United States Army combat veteran who was shot twice while serving our country in Panama in 1989. Like many veterans, he struggled with PTSD and substance abuse after his service. He was arrested in the 1990s for some minor drug offenses, nothing serious. He never hurt anyone besides himself, and he's been clean and sober for 14 years. He is a combat veteran, a Purple Heart recipient. He has sacrificed more for this country than most people ever have. Earlier this year, you deported him to Korea, a country he hasn't lived in since he was 7 years old. Will you join me in thanking Mr. Park for his service to our country?
Sir, I'm grateful for every single person that has served our country and follows our laws.
Can you please tell
And knows
Mr.
that our
Park
laws
why
are
you
important
deported
and
him?
Every one of them needs to be enforced.
But you understand that many veterans struggle with PTSD, many veterans struggle with substance abuse challenges. This man took 2 bullets for our country. Will you have broad authority, by the way, as Secretary, to issue humanitarian parole, to do deferred action. Will you commit to at least looking at Mr. Park's case to see if you can help him find a pathway back to this country that he sacrificed so much for?
I will absolutely look at his case, but I want you.
Terry, how many United
A good shot. These guys are getting good with their stunts. The little Zoom call was very, very effective. I'm glad they had him there.
Yeah,
That
you
was
bring
good.
the guy that she
Yeah.
deported to Korea for no fucking reason whatsoever, other
Yeah.
than he had a criminal record from like 20 years ago. You put him on Zoom,
And tell
and you
him,
go, "Hey, do you know this guy?"
yeah. Tell him exactly why you decided to deport him. This guy who gave up his,
Yeah.
his life for America. This guy who got shot for America. It's good, it's good, good. And she didn't have an answer, although I'm impressed that she actually said that she will look into it.
I'm not. I mean, because she won't.
Yeah.
Right? Like, she doesn't give a shit about that guy.
Yeah.
She doesn't give a shit about any of the hundreds of thousands of people whose lives she has irrevocably changed, whose lives she's destroyed, family she's destroyed, under the auspices that she's just going after illegal immigrants with criminal records. 4% of people detained and deported. 4%. 4, not 40. 4, not 14. 4% of people detained, people deported, have had criminal records. They are in that target demo that they're trying to target, that Tom Homan talks about all the time, that everybody hides behind. It's like, we're getting rid of criminal illegals, but they're not.
Yeah.
They're getting rid of anybody that is undesirable to them, getting rid of anybody that they think doesn't look like them, doesn't act like them, doesn't talk like them, might have a criminal record. Like, they're literally...
Sorry, something was crazy. Could you...
You okay? Yellow.
I don't know if everyone can hear the echo, but it's something just gone nuts here, and I apologize.
No.
Oh, there you go. I'm just going to do it that way. Sorry about that.
You all right?
Oh, no. Did I lose us?
No.
Okay, we're here. Okay, sorry about that. There's too much going on my screen. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I just heard lots of echo. I don't know if everyone else
Don't be
heard
sorry.
lots of echo.
You got a lot going on over there. It's
screen.
tech central. Yeah. And that's all this is. That's all this is. I mean, all the numbers bear out. Now we're getting real life scenarios where you can put faces and names to the lies that Kristi Noem tells and DHS tells. They're literally going after political opponents. They're going after anybody they can, anybody that voted for a Democrat, anybody who's Asian, anybody who's brown, anybody who's Mexican, anybody who's Hispanic, anybody from Latin America. Doesn't matter if they're here legally or not. 4% of every single person detained and arrested and deported from the United States have criminal records and are illegal aliens. 4%
It's crazy.
So to see a physical manifestation of that today and to watch Kristi Noem eat shit and then leave early was incredible to watch.
She was there today basically to put a even darker face on the regime's already terrible deportation policy, which I don't get, because in Miami the other day when the mayor was elected, the Democratic mayor, the first time in 30 years, when that happened, it should have sent a chill down the spine of everyone in the administration to say, this deportation strategy is killing us.
Mm.
Because that's what that election was about. That election was about 300,000 people who serve the Miami area, fearing for their lives every day, who, if you actually deported all of them to the countries of origin, you would have no economy in Miami. There'd be nothing happening in Miami from an economic perspective. And what's setting up here is this complete dichotomy. You've got Kristi Noem, who is out there looking like the tough, tyrant who's going to throw everyone out of the country. And you've got the voters who are saying, we hate this. We absolutely hate this. We are going to turn around 30 years of Republican rule in Miami to let everybody know how much we hate this, because we want a mayor that's going to go up against you. And this regime is tone deaf. They just don't care. They just continue on their way. They want to look tougher and crazier and more ridiculous all the time. And, the threat the other day that she was going to be fired or whatever it was just to juice her up so she could look even tougher during the hearing today.
Yeah. Well, she didn't look tough at all. She got called out in front of the world. Like, she shit her pants on live TV. Mm-hmm. She capitulated on live television because she saw the face of a man that she deported, sight unseen, that is an American citizen, that is an American veteran, that two bullets for the United States of America, that has PTSD, that along with almost every other veteran in the United States of America has been abandoned. And I'd be interested to know how many U.S. veterans that they've just fucking get rid of that guy. Yeah, he's American, but he's not really American because he's not from here and he's not white. So just fucking go after him too. There has to be some kind of process outside of the process of evil deportations, the abuse of human beings that have lived in the United States, sacrificed for the United States, that make the United States economy work. There has to be a face to those actions. There has to be names to those actions. And a quick aside, Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Yeah.
a judge today effectively said, you release him right fucking now or else. And the Trump regime basically said no. So couple that with what you just saw. What you just saw was an American veteran, an American citizen in the United States illegally, who sacrificed his well-being, life, and ability to live a normal existence for the United States of America at the age of 70, get deported to another country he hasn't lived in since he was fucking 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because he's not fucking white. That's why.
Yeah. You're not seeing any of that happen to white people at all, really. I haven't heard any white people being deported back to their countries of origin. None. And there's a lot of illegal people who are white in America right now. But they're not the ones getting deported. You're getting these guys from countries where people aren't white, or people from Latin America where we're about to conduct a war, or people from Africa. But you're not getting white Americans being deported. And that seems to be okay for most white Americans. They seem to be okay with that policy. But everyone needs to remember that this kind of stuff comes home very quickly. Once you empower these institutions like ICE to act like the Gestapo, they will act like the Gestapo. And that's basically what we're seeing out of the reports that came out yesterday from the Senate about how how ICE is operating as basically a group of
Racist thugs.
Racist thugs that have got no control. No one's looking. No one's telling them what to do or how to do things. They're just basically going up there and playing out their fantasies of beating up people who aren't white and then deporting them. That's basically what's happening. And so this stuff, it doesn't stay with just immigrants. It's going to come and attack us all down the line. You know what the time is?
3:29.
It's also 8 days until the release of the Epstein files. Good one, right?
I like how you played that one up a bit.
Yeah.
You know what time it is? You should have put your hand behind your ear.
No, time. Why? Because I.
What time it is?
Do I? Okay. Time. Why? Just because time. December 19th is the deadline, 8 days from now, when the Justice Department must release all Epstein files under the new Epstein Files Transparency Act. 2 federal judges this week ordered the unsealing of grand jury transcripts from both Jeffrey Epstein's 2019 case and Ghislaine Maxwell's 2021 conviction. But here's what's alarming. The DOJ has exposed over 1,000 victims' names to Congress, then tried to seal records claiming victim privacy concerns they themselves violated. That's a big piece of this, is that's coming out. The other piece of it is what I revealed yesterday on The Greatest Heist, which is this algorithm, which I'm stunned by. I mean, it hasn't received much play outside of narrative, but this idea that on that chalkboard in his island at Little St. James, Jeff Epstein, before his passing, almost as a sign, almost as a goodbye letter to the world, leaves this this algorithm on his board, one that really sort of reads like reads like a manual for how he conducted his operations. To me, it's the most stunning and kind of remarkable piece of evidence because, for one thing, he let this out. I mean, he put this out on, and this is that thing on the chalkboard itself. This is the redacted version. He put this out for everyone to see. He knew this was probably the last time he was going to be at the island, because it was one of the last times he was at the island. This picture was taken right after he was arrested. So he left this behind in some ways as a calling card. And I put this through various AI iterations and all these other things just to make sure I had the words right. Some people might disagree with some of these, but this is what it looked like after all that analysis and after looking at some of the unredacted photos that came out of the same blackboard. And what you have here is an algorithm for how to achieve power through deception and using plants, in this case prostitutes, if you like, to basically create an illusion and also fear in the hearts and minds of the people you're targeting. But to me, this is the most obvious and sometimes, it's really overlooked. But for me, Epstein was like this. Epstein kept leaving clues behind everywhere he went. For people like me.
in the form of formula.
Yeah. This is an algorithm. He's a math guy, right?
Yeah.
He's used to doing things on a chalkboard with algorithms. This is a formula for how he did it. On the left, you see the powers of the spheres of influence that he was trying to dominate. Financial, we know he absolutely did that. The physics world, some people say that word is actually physical, but I think it's physics because that is a world that he really tried to dominate, especially when it came to nuclear physics. The intellectual world, we know that was a big pursuit of him to try and gain all the attention of all the big intellectuals. And then also, of course, the political world. This is where he would ultimately, infuse so much attention and so much power that would get someone like Donald Trump into the White House. So you've got this, that desire to get power, but he admits to it in this formula that he does it through deception. The whole thing for him was to create the perception of something else. And so he built this entire world of these private jets and these islands and these mansions and this whole illusion that existed in order to lure all these people from these different spheres of influence and bring them into his lair. And there he would be able to get these plants or these prostitutes or whatever to figure out exactly what the weakness of each individual was, what their truth was, what their health was, what they felt was their religious underpinning, their sort of where they're most vulnerable for compromise. And so, that's how he achieved this deception, through illusion and fear, his words on this board. And on the right is how it appears, So clearly music was a big piece of this. I don't know what these mixes are. I have no idea what that means. But the time is important. And then he has two words, DC and UC UC is not there, but this is, many people think, is the unconscious world and the sort of the underwritten world or the subconscious world. That what he's really referring to here, there are some people you can manipulate and they know, but the best place to do this deception is in the dark brain on the subconscious level, so people don't realize they're being played. And to me, this is just the most remarkable thing for someone who is running an operation that clearly involved all these elements. I mean, it's not like we have to think very deeply about it involving all these elements. And the fact that he left this behind, in a way, is like a calling card of some sort. But it's also a admission. It's a confession of in some ways, of what he did, or at least how he did it. And that's why I am anticipating quite a lot from the release of the full FBI files, not the grand jury stuff. I don't think that's going to give us very much. I think the FBI files, when and if they're released, are going to reveal a lot of how this all played out.
Yeah. First of all, incredible work. If anybody has not become a subscriber at narrative.org, where you can actually see what was on this chalkboard, that Zev has drilled all kinds of time and effort into figuring out what was blacked out, what was blocked out. To see this in real time is just incredible investigative work. So well done.
Thank you.
Because not many people had dug into that. They just kind of, froze frame past this, obviously, from the picture dump from the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Justice, given to the House Oversight Committee. We waxed about it last week. We literally went through this picture while it was blacked out. Music, ABX, Health, Truth Health, Holy, that was all blacked out. So, the fact that you're seeing behind that wall is incredible. Great work. What I go back to the formulaic sort of Easter eggs that are in and around Epstein documents. Like, if you remember, and I'm looking at it right now, if you remember his birthday book, Jean-Luc Brunel, his message in Epstein's birthday book was all in code like this. It was a formula put into a mathematical formula that effectively looked like what he was trying to say to Jeffrey Epstein was, hey, you're so powerful. Here's how you got so powerful. E equals MC squared, E meaning Epstein, MC squared being the model group that he owned at the time with Jean-Luc Brunel, where they would literally have a straight pipe, a main line of European women into the United States and vice versa. And it's amazing to see the work that you've put into that kind of lays out what is, psychologically, philosophically very, very sound. And I read what you put out yesterday, and I myself went and did a little bit of research. And what you're dealing with there, to your point, as I understand it by everything that I've read, is Jeffrey Epstein leaving his calling card behind before he turned himself in at Teterboro Airport to be arrested and be sent to jail, where he eventually died. And it's interesting because I was reading some of those Epstein-Bannon emails where Bannon's like, hey, we got the proof for the video. I'll be there tomorrow. He's like, full stop on everything. Full stop on everything. That formula was written prior, I believe the day before he sent that email
Oh.
to Steve Bannon, almost to your point, like he wanted to leave behind what formula he used to capture women, elites, smart men, leaders of industry, and how he did it on the conscious and the subconscious level, and how he appealed to all of them with that sort of dark brain mentality through making them feel good, their physical, their most important, deeply held ideological perspectives, their religions, how they felt about women, and getting to the truth of each one of these individuals so they could absolutely extract information and access. And what I see here on this makes all the sense in the world if you understand anything about psychological capacity, if you understand anything about evolutionary psychological perspective, is that this works. This works. If you ran these words and said, what does this formula mean? And you put it through any AI model, as I know that you probably have, Zev,
Yeah.
it effectively is a way to control people. It's a way to control large groups of people, to
The way
extract
to
information
attain
from people.
power. The
Yeah,
way to
exactly.
actually attain power. And, you know, he wrote about this in other places. This isn't just random. He spoke about it in places about these, you can call them appendages, the words with prosthetics, but turning people into extensions of yourself to do
Yeah.
things for you as if they were you, owning people through this formula. So he had, you know, Jess Staley do all these ridiculous things inside JP Morgan. He was an executive at JP Morgan in exchange for, you know, all these smaller favors that Epstein actually did for him. And yet, you know, Jess Staley always thought he was the one giving more, when in reality he was. I'm sorry, taking more, but he was giving much more all the way through. And what this man did, Epstein, and I believe this, you know, he was arrested by Bill Barr's Justice Department under Donald Trump. So who arrested him, and who did he know he was going to be arrested by? He knew that he was going to be arrested by the very people who empowered him, by that same network. So he was leaving this calling card to future people, to us, to investigators, to say, this is what I was doing. And anyone who figured this out could see, oh, well, this is a much bigger thing. This is about someone, not about trafficking underage girls. This is someone who's peddling power for a very big network of people involving all these realms of power. And that is why there is, you know, so much nervousness right now in DC and the annals of power about what may come out on the 19th. And if they can't stop it, they will try stop it.
If you think about it from a perspective of, you know, how much of Epstein's universe, Trump's universe, is involved in the Epstein files and the purpose of the honeypot sex trafficking pedophile operation, that sits in one word at the top with three different letters: plants. Those are plants,
Yeah.
right? Everything else appears: music, ABX, AAY mix. I want to know what that means.
Yeah.
Time,
it's,
you know, direct consciousness, dark brain, illusion, fear, power and deception, financial, physics or physical, intellectual, political. That's the rest of it. Like that's what Donald Trump doesn't want anybody to know. In fact, you know, I had a conversation with somebody in his orbit the other day, and he said, and I quote, "It's just sex." You know, it's the other shit, the money laundering and the treasonous and seditious shit that he did for Russia and other mobbed up governments over the past 40 years that sits around all the other stuff not included in plants, truth, health, holy. Like that's just to give you some perspective about how huge this is and the calling card that Jeffrey Epstein appears to have left behind. It is fascinating. That is incredible work, dude. Like unbelievable.
Yeah, I was. It's really blew my mind, especially that part where at the, you know, the on the right there it says the music, time, and dark brain. That's all bracketed together as an algorithmic sort of its own little formula on the side. So he had a formula for how to create that deception and what it looks like in real life. You know, whether it was, you know, the music that he was setting, how he was able to get into the subconscious brain, bringing people into his lair, really seducing them, and then using that deception of friendship, the deception of I'm on your side, to actually to extract so much information from them. He had this other thing about, you know, biology is about deception, that survival in biology is all about deception. He kept saying this happens everywhere in biology, and in some ways that's true. We all sometimes deceive in order to survive, but He was taking it into a whole other realm where he could use it as a means to steal, as a means to destroy countries, as a means to gather as much power and money for himself and his network as possible. And I wonder whether he was having a guilty conscience at the end there. He certainly, when he was in jail, appeared to be spilling the beans, and he's probably the reason why he was, why he's no longer with us.
Or he got murdered by Donald Trump.
Yeah, but again, spilling the beans. So it could be any of those things or all of those things together.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about next Friday. We'll have special coverage when these files and if these files come down. We'll be the ones to turn to for that coverage. And this is story number 2 on the countdown. It's all about Europe. Comes from deanblundell.substack.com. Europe just hit a wall trying to save Ukraine. The EU committed to funding Kyiv's $157 billion needs for 2026-2027. But Belgium is blocking the entire plan to use frozen Russian assets, and military aid has collapsed to its lowest level since the invasion began. So what's going on? They're about to give it a big boost. Tell us what's happening in Europe to support Ukraine.
Yeah, big deal. It's a big deal. Listen, I always like it when baby countries grow up and grow a spine. Canada not also being included in that, the list of countries that grew up and grew a spine. We have lived in the shadow of the threat of Russia, the threat of the U.S. pulling support for 80 fucking years. 80 years. The EU just figured something out. And there is a $300 billion asset sitting in the Nuclea bank in Belgium that belongs to the EU, which is the Belgian banking partner of the European Union. It takes in, divvies up money for different projects, et cetera, et cetera. And in this bank account in Belgium, there's $300 billion in sovereign Russian assets, $300 billion that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, in their infinite wisdom in their 28-point plan, earmarked as money to go to the United States and Russia to help rebuild Ukraine and Russia after this 3.5-year genocide of Ukraine, with Ukraine actually punching back and destroying infrastructure and capacity, not going after human beings. Millions, hundreds of thousands, millions of people have been murdered, killed. Ukraine, certain aspects of Ukraine are gone and will never come back. Cities have been destroyed and razed to the ground. And Donald Trump's infinite wisdom with Putin, where they tried to slide one through the side door against Ukraine, was, okay, unfreeze the money, give it to us, but it goes to the United States and it goes to Russia, and we get to decide what happens with $300 billion of Russian dollars. Ursula von der Leyen and the rest of the EU, minus Viktor Orban and whatever other holdout prick, like this guy, Van Beeker is his name. He's a Belgian dude who held up the process to begin with. They basically got shoved aside today, and the European Union triggered Article 122 of the European Union Constitution, which says we're going to take that fucking money and hand it to Ukraine today. So today, Ukraine received notice that they are going to be in receipt of 210 billion euros of Russian oligarch assets from their sovereign fund that goes directly to them to help fight the war against Russia. So the EU is now going to give Ukraine Russia's $300 billion to fight Russia. Now, here's where it gets antsy. Russia's on the brink of financial collapse, like on the brink of collapse. And their hope and a prayer was Donald Trump making sure that they got their hands on that $300 billion and they could normalize relationships with the United States financially, relieve sanctions, so that you could breathe life back into that fucking terroristic economy. That ain't happening. That ain't happening after today. It's a kill shot. There are days in geopolitics when someone gives a speech, signs a treaty, or launches a missile, and history shifts by a few degrees. That was today. Europe literally walked into the global vault, turned the deadbolt on $210 billion of Russian sovereign assets, and effectively told Donald Trump, you don't run the world anymore, sunshine. You definitely don't control our bank account, and we are going all in Ukraine. And that literally happened today. And where it gets really interesting, there's going to be a process that plays out. It's going to happen in tranches. Obviously, there's going to be a fight. Is Russia has literally threatened the lives of bankers at Nuclea. Like, said no to them. You relieve that money, we're going to fucking find you and your family will kill you. We need that money so bad, we're about to go tits up. And they don't have a choice in the matter because the EU controls the management of that information, the management of that money, and how that money gets dispersed. And so they basically turn the tables on Trump and Russia. And how do you take down a mob? You attack their money. And so the other part of today, which is absolutely incredible, it's such an incredibly hopeful day for Ukraine, for the EU, for so many, partners of the coalition of the willing, is Europe is now prepared to trigger a $2.43 trillion bond sell-off of U.S. Treasury bonds. And that will crater parts of the U.S. economy. It'll be done in stages, like a warning. Hey, we're going to do this. Don't do that. You don't meet these terms. We're going to go here. We're going to go there. And by the way, we're still going all in with Ukraine. So both of those financial triggers happened today. And I can tell you something, talking to some friends of mine in Ukraine today, there is more hope in Ukraine because the EU decided to actually grow a spine than there has been in the 3.5, almost 4 years now that Russia has been committing genocide in the country of Ukraine. So what a great news story for not only democracy, the people of Ukraine, and of course the EU.
Now, if Europe actually does any of this and sells its treasury bills, it will be a disaster for the American economy. So I'm going to say that I feel like it's a good threat. If they follow through on it, it's really not
leverage.
a good thing, but it's good leverage. And I think that leverage is beginning to work. As you point out, the Russian economy is struggling. Lavrov actually came out today and said there was a misunderstanding in the previous negotiation, and all of that has been cleared up, which means that they
Did you see that? He was like, listen, we'll sign any agreement you want.
Yeah, he understands that they've got leverage against him, and he understands that Donald Trump is cratering as the president, may not even be alive for that long, that his opportunity for striking any form of deal is really shrinking quite quickly. And today, the United States also proposed a free economic zone for parts of eastern Donbass, which it seemed to make Zelensky, be interested a little bit more in what might be some sort of arrangement around parts of eastern Ukraine where they could have a free economic zone there. All of that appears to mean that there is still negotiations going on. This deal is still in the making, possibly. It's not because of Donald Trump that it may get signed. It's in spite of Donald Trump that something may actually happen. But we could see actual deals in between Russia and Ukraine here. Not too optimistic about
that's because the EU boxed in Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's with the
with
EU
Canada and the coalition of the willing. This has nothing to do with Donald Trump having a moment of clarity. This has nothing to do with Lavrov and Russia going, oh, maybe we would like the hostilities to end. They don't want anything to end. They want all of Ukraine. This is because the EU finally said, we're going to take all your shit and give it to Ukraine, you fuckers.
And we all saw it right through the Witkoff-Kushner meeting with Putin. I mean, everyone saw exactly what it was. Everyone saw the strategic document that you shared the next day or whatever it was. Clearly, this is a Russian move to control American foreign policy, and they're trying to make money out of it. And that was so transparent. And, the Europe has seen it so much as being a corruption deal that it left Russia really exposed. And I think that's why we're going to see a real opportunity for peace here. Wouldn't that be a nice thing? The number one story, speaking of not a nice thing, this is war, not peace, happening in Venezuela. Trump plans to invade Venezuela with ground troops by Christmas, because that's a good time to start a war. U.S. troops could be on the ground in Venezuela by Christmas, according to credible White House sources, conducting advanced planning for deployments by year's end. Trump seized a Venezuelan oil tanker yesterday in a dramatic helicopter raid, broadcast by Attorney General Pam Bondi, showing armed Coast Guard personnel fast roping onto the ship. Trump held a White House war meeting on Monday night with Hegseth, Rubio, Miller, and Wiles to plan ground strikes inside Venezuela very soon, and that timing was leaked as being 2 weeks. As he's deployed 15,000 troops close Venezuelan airspace, and CNN reports the White House is quietly drafting day after plans for the regime to change. Well, it's always been about regime change. We've been saying that all along. It has nothing to do with drugs. It's just about the oil and about changing the government in Venezuela.
Yeah. I got to be honest. I don't think it happens.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen either. He's right. That's what he wants to do.
Yeah. Every time that dumb fuck opens up his mouth and says, we're going to war, they don't do it. He's Taco. He's Taco Trump. Take it all back. He never, ever follows through with anything. And he's so fucking afraid of his own shadow. And he's so, that's the other thing about Donald Trump is he likes to keep you kind of guessing. He wants you to have the worst possible scenario in your mind so he can come back and act like a peacemaker. You know, he did the same thing with SNAP benefits. Everything he does, he starts the fire, walks away, comes back, and goes, you know, I'm the only one that can put this out. And people are just so desperate to have that fire put out. They're like, yeah, please do it. And so Donald Trump is, I believe what he's doing is he's setting up this whole war to be on the list of wars that he has somehow solved or brought peace to or stopped. The one that he wants to start with Venezuela. I think that's part of it. The other part of this is how does he get his friend's oil from out of the ground of Venezuela? And that's the only thing he cares about. That's literally in 10 or 12, I believe, Epstein emails back and forth with Steve Bannon and a few other assholes where it's like Venezuela's $215 trillion in oil. That's a country that needs regime change. So he's still following parts of that playbook as well. What's really interesting right now is a couple of things that are happening on the ground. The CIA is definitely on the ground in Venezuela. No question about it. They had one of their biggest refineries blow up the other day. Venezuela's like, it's what had nothing to do with us. That was just an explosion, a bomb. It was human made. We have no idea, but we're pretty sure it's the CIA. Maduro is literally walking around downtown Caracas going, you guys can't hurt me. Go fuck yourself. And I'm not a Maduro guy. I don't know really anything about Maduro other than he's a fucking socialist dictator. And he's that shoehorn of socialism. If you're a fascist or a socialist, if you're a dictator, you're just an authoritarian dictator. It doesn't matter how you rose to power. And so that's an easy sell for Trump to the rest of America. But I go back to this all the time. In no way, shape, or form is Venezuela a threat to the United States of America's security or the health and safety of every single American in the United States of America. It's just, there's no way. And it doesn't matter how many fucking boats he's blown up, because we know that that's all bullshit too. It doesn't change the fact that Donald Trump is literally trying as hard as he can to scare the shit out of Nicolas Maduro. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, he's like, hey, if you're Nicolas Maduro, you better leave your palace tonight because I'm closing all the airspace in Venezuela. If you're a pilot in Venezuela, if you're flying, stay out of the air. And then he's got bombers, like, you know, pictures of bombers that he's putting on social media. Hegseth's doing the same thing. All the proxies are doing the same. That was 2 weeks ago. You know what happened 2 weeks ago? Absolutely fucking nothing.
It's true. I mean, this going back to the start of the show, we were talking about the deception of the mainstream media, the legacy media. This is a show war. I mean, this is an attempt to appear like America's muscular, like it's tough, like it's getting rid of Maduro. If Maduro is going, he's already in on it. He already has his deal out. He knows exactly how he's going to be doing it. Because this is not the real thing. This is not like a real war. The timing is really interesting. Epstein files come out on the 19th. They want to be at war with Venezuela by the 25th. I mean, it certainly smells a little bit like that's not just coincidental. Yeah. I'd have a lot more respect for them if they went out and said, hey, Venezuela is a real threat to national security because of the oil. We want to go and get the oil. We think America should have that oil. That's why we want to have regime change. We don't think this guy is a Democrat. We don't think he's good for his people. We're going after the oil. But the fact that they've been lying and killing people in the Caribbean and creating this mythology around some sort of drug war which doesn't exist, that is why Americans don't trust the government or the media or anybody else, because it's just theater. It's just nonsense. That's not what's going on. There might be a deal for Venezuelan oil, but if it is a deal with Venezuelan oil, you have to triangulate the fact that Vladimir Putin is Maduro's friend and Trump is Vladimir Putin's friend, and there's no ways anything is happening in that sphere of influence without Vladimir Putin controlling it and knowing exactly what the outcome is going to be. And that's just the nature of how he does things, no matter where you look at it around the world.
Add in China's relationship with Maduro, and add in Trump's relationship with China, specifically Xi. And you have, to your point, the makings of a very interesting operation where not only Venezuela wants you to think they're getting invaded, Russia wants you to think they're getting invaded, Xi wants you to think they're getting invaded, and Trump wants you to think they're getting invaded. Trump is buddies with the guys that are propping up that government. Trump worships the guys that's propping up Venezuela, sending all kinds of military equipment and assets into Venezuela right now, along with Iran, by the way. And Venezuela has a standing army right now of about 3.5 million people. They've activated the whole country, like the whole country's on test exercises. So, to your point, this just might be a great big fucking theatrical operation that we're kind of just suckers on the other end of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
It
the
could
deal
be.
might already have been made. And it's an incredible point that you make, actually. I love it.
Yeah, because I mean, to me, it looks like all of this is just theater, and it's not working, and they keep trying and trying and trying.
Yeah.
It's not because there's no reason for it. There's just no reason for it being, other than the fact that they've already probably struck a deal, and they know that they're going to get the oil, or some sort of deal between China, Russia, and Trump gets them the oil out of Venezuela, and then sure they can claim regime change, and Maduro can go and retire somewhere. Because I'm sure he doesn't like the job of being a dictator of an oil country either. That is the FiveStack for today, December 11th, 2025. Great stuff on deanblundell.substack.com. This is where you get a lot of the stories for our show. You really got it covered when it comes to Europe. You're way ahead of everybody else. Yesterday, you broke the news right here that Denmark was going to view, you did it on your show with Jacob, but it was about viewing America as a national security threat. That's over Greenland. That just came out today as the news. But if you were watching Dean Blundell yesterday, you would have got the news yesterday. That's how in lock he is with everything that's going on, with all the people in power. That's how he knows what the news is, and that's why he brings it to you at deanblundell.substack.com. He's got a special right now on his website, so 25% off or something like that.
Annual subscriptions, yep. Lock that in forever. Founders never pay again. Grateful for everybody's subscription. Doesn't matter if you're free or paid. Really hope that you share this with as many people as humanly possible. To Zev's point, not only are we first, but we also hopefully give you the context to affirm your perspective. And one of the stories that I put out today was about, Ukraine getting Russia's money, and of course the EU literally flooring the United States with the nuclear trigger option of selling U.S. Treasury bonds in the amount of about $2.5 trillion. And the response to that story, just in the comments, continually reminds me why we do this, is because nobody gets this information from mainstream media anymore, going back to our original story with Ryan Lizza. It is a catch and kill service. So the fact that you're here, the fact that you're smart enough to go, I need to understand what's going on, I'm not going to listen to those pricks anymore, means everything to us, and it's why we're here. We're here because we are you. We get to enjoy our time with you every day at 3 o'clock, and we get to be part of your lives, and you give us your time, which is the most valuable commodity in the world, human attention and time. Not gold, not silver, not myrrh, not lithium, none of those things, not rubies, not diamonds. It's human attention and time, and you give us that. And it is incredibly humbling to both Zev and myself, which is why we want to give you as much access to what we do as possible, unlimited access. So please become a subscriber here. If you haven't joined narrative.org and taken part in the Greatest Heist series, which gives you context to literally everything we're talking about, from the Epstein files to Donald Trump to money laundering and how we got here to a fascist United States of America, you need to do it. Chapter 5. In book 2 is absolutely incredible reading when it comes to what we talked about today, specifically that formula, espionage, and what Jeffrey Epstein was all about, in the breadcrumbs that he left for everybody else. So please go and do that again today. And again, thanks for joining us. We love you because we are you. Thanks for being here on the FiveStack today, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Cheers, everybody.